feels amazing to be able to run at that level where you just feel everything is just working. And even when... What if I told you that the secret to running faster can be unlocked for as little as $2 and will result in you running 3% faster? Not a lot of people know about this. With everyone joining run clubs, competitions, fun run marathons, I think it's important that you know this too. And here it is, all you need to run faster. And it's not illegal. Let me explain what this is and how I got to this point. My name is Salvatore Condello. Recently, I did a blood test, and I kind of do this every 12 months for a health scare I had a couple of years back. And when I was looking at these results, I mean, it was all pretty normal, but there's something that really stood out to me. My B12 levels. There were 212, which was prescribed to be, in the Australian standards, average and fine. But the thing is, that is quite low for two reasons. The first reason is that in Japan and other countries, they consider low to be anything under 500. And then I think some other countries even have a range. So Japan's just like recommending around like 800. So that's actually quite a big departure. Now the second reason about why that's important is because, hang on. So the first reason is the average is wrong, which means you're misinformed. But there's another reason. To really unlock every element of yourself in long distance endurance, you need your B12 to be where it needs to be. It needs to be more between 800 and 1,000 because you're pushing yourself to the limit. You're not just average like everyone else that just, doesn't really have the goals, desire, drive to be as fast as possible like yourself. You're an outlier, you're an athlete, you're someone that needs the right supplementation. And that's why this is important. So if I was to explain why B12 is important, it's kind of like your energy levels. So by having mine at 212 below not only the average, but way below what's needed for peak athletic performance, at the start line, I've effectively handicapped myself. It's like starting back before everyone else. So when it hits go, you've got to run to the start line and then run further. Or another example I like to give, because I used to play a lot of Pokemon as a kid and I find it very easy to relate, is imagine that you have a Charizard, right? But because your B12 levels are low, when you go into a battle, you've actually got a Charmelon, which is the second stage evolution. So while you might be still attacking and doing damage, you're not going to be doing nearly as much damage as you actually had an evolved Charizard, right? And that's kind of what this is. This gets you to that higher ceiling to be able to give it your all. And to kind of give you a real life example of how powerful this is within the first week of injecting this. Yes, this means you have to use a needle, but it's okay, it's fine. You can watch videos online. The best way to do it, you can inject in the leg or you can inject into the shoulder. I'd say the shoulder is probably the better option to go. A lot of people recommend that too. And you can watch videos about how to kind of prepare the needle safely and everything to do. I'm not going to go into that in this video at this point, but I just kind of want to talk about that. Now, the reason it's important to go for an injection versus just having a pill is one, it's cheaper, and two, it's delivered straight into your blood. The thing with pills and other methodologies is they require you to metabolize it, which means it kind of has to be processed by your body. Everyone's body is different, but something injected into the blood into the muscle is like, there's no ifs or buts. It's there. There's no kind of middleman that has to go through. So you're basically kind of ensuring that you're getting every ounce of this or every component of it. So what I mean by the the example is I injected it, and then a couple of days later I had a corporate cup, which is a 4.5k race, and in doing so, my performance, I hit a new personal best. I hit 16 minutes and 59 seconds. I felt amazing, and I really felt that I could give it my all. And I wasn't handicapped. I was battling with the Charizard. So then what I continued to do is every two weeks, or it was every week I injected this. And then now I'm at the point where it's every 2 weeks I'm having my B12, because I want to make sure they're optimized. And you can probably think this is crazy, but when I was talking to the person that read my bloods, because he's worked with a lot of endurance athletes and really high performers, he did note that B12 supplementation is key for them to get to that next level and get everything out of them. It's kind of like if you could do everything you would, why would you not do this as well, considering it's so cheap? So there was that, but there's even more proof that I can give to the point of this. So 16:59, I thought that was incredibly quick, but I had that imposter syndrome of, can I run this again? I think it was either 2 weeks or 4 weeks later, because it's a fortnightly round, 7-round competition. I ran 16:49. Again, my body felt that I could really harness every component of myself. I felt that the way this is described is that you're really using all of your power, and it doesn't feel like it's as hard as it used to be. And I guess to contextualize that, we have to talk about the run I did this week for the Corporate Cup, the 6th round. To give you some context, my legs weren't feeling 100%. My sleep wasn't as good as it could have been for that day's performance. I had like some meetings, so I didn't really have the time. I would have liked to have done it earlier, so I wasn't kind of feeling as great, right? But because of the power of B12, right, is when I did the run, I was able to hold a really steady, fast pace, and it didn't feel hard. It felt that my body was just almost used to it, or had gotten to this higher ceiling, if that makes sense. It was harnessing the power it could, so I had that 3% boost from this, and it just meant it was easier. It felt like I was running with an 8.5 to 9 out of 10 effort. Like I was almost there, but I wasn't, if that makes sense. And there was headwind in the run. So I put out a time of 17:02, just over 2 seconds slower than what happened when I first supplemented with this. But I felt in my mind that, yeah, I could have pushed further. This is there's more to this, because of how comfortable I then became at that pace. That is what I'm trying to impress upon you about how quickly you can start to see these results. I still think it's a good deal for the fact that you've got the safety and guarantee that you know you're getting everything out of this. I mean, this could be a component of placebo too, but I really do feel the difference. And I've had a lot of other athletic performances recently where I think a huge amount of that has been credited to understanding what my B12 is and actually taking a course of action to improve that, so that I've got the evolved Charizard and I'm ready to rock and roll, to conquer mountains and conquer life. So that's probably something I've recently discovered. Now, you could be at the point where it is somewhat scary, where you associate the idea of needles with illicit drugs like heroin and all the other types of bad stuff, or you just see dirty needles on the floor and you kind of have that. And I'm not gonna lie, that was a component of what I thought when I would start doing this. But when you start to understand the procedure about how to do this correctly, using clean needles, disposing of them correctly, it just kind of becomes, it doesn't become as scary. And look, if you kind of want to avoid all that, if you are close enough to a pharmacy or a medical clinic where you can basically buy the vials and get them to inject you and book in an appointment with a nurse once a month or once every 2 weeks, then by all means probably do that if you're more comfortable with it, or you can't look at the needle so you need someone to do it. But if you kind of want to take matters into your own hands and not have to do the whole kerfuffle and the extra you want to save time, then this is probably going to be the better way to go about that, because it's just so easy and effortless, and you really do see the results. I'm not really trying to clickbait you. I'm really trying to genuinely give you a tip that not a lot of people know about, B12. Now, you could have the argument that, oh, he's a vegan, he's not getting enough B12, you know, he should just eat meat. Well, to that point, look, I know not a lot of people are going to say this, but to that point, we need to understand that cows, chickens, lamb, all those animals are actually injected with B12. So B12, you need to understand, is actually a component that comes from the soil. And because we live in such an overtly sanitized world, you know, we're eating clean potatoes, we're not actually eating any of the dirt on them because we're told to wash our potatoes. We're losing a lot of that. It's kind of like a microbiome almost. It kind of exists at that level. So because of that, supplementation is a consistent thing that you have to do. And it's not just vegans. You'll find that, you know, people that eat a lot of meat or just eat meat in general that are, you know, performing athletes will still inject with B12. So it's an irrelevant point about, oh, you should just eat meat, because, well, yeah, you could, but this is still way cheaper than just buying a steak. And I'm not trying to go on some huge rant about veganism, but basically what I'm trying to say is go straight to the source, and it's incredibly cheap, incredibly straightforward and easy to do. And if you're too scared to do the needle yourself, go to a licensed medical clinic, talk to a doctor about how much you need. But generally speaking, if you have an excess of B12, you'll just piss it out because your body excretes it. But it kind of takes a long time before you get to that kind of overdosing component. But I think what we need to take away from this is it's not something a lot of people are talking about. And it's one of those like free hacks or something that's kind of gatekept in a sense that you can actually action right now. So that's kind of how I've used it to conquer the mountain of speed and just absolutely take my performance to that next level and really feel like I'm harnessing every component of my body. And it feels amazing to be able to run at that level where you just feel everything is just working. And even when it's on a day that you're not feeling 100%, your body is still doing everything it can to facilitate that. It just gives you a level of confidence that you're on the right path in pursuing these goals, but also your body is working just as hard as you are to those goals. And that's an incredible, inspiring feeling that just makes you want to push and push and push. And also B12 is important from a lethargy point of view. Like in the day, if you're getting brain fog, it helps you to really sharpen that concentration. So if people are thinking, oh, well, I need to take like, you know, caffeine or Ritalin or whatever, potentially you could have a B12 deficiency. So that's something worth consider. Don't listen to what the averages are in Australia. They're prescribed too low. You need to kind of think of yourself as an athlete, and that's kind of what I'm trying to impress upon you. Conquer mountains, conquer life. Thanks.